The vast expanse of space stretched out before Captain Steve Jones as he stood at the viewport of the U.S. Shadowblade, his weathered face, etched with scars from countless battles, reflected in the reinforced glass. The stars seemed to mock him, twinkling innocently while harboring the greatest threat humanity had faced in centuries. "Captain, we're approaching the outer defense perimeter of the HFY fleet," Lieutenant Commander Ramirez reported, his voice tight with tension. Jones nodded, his steel-gray eyes never leaving the stars. "Activate stealth systems. It's time to end this war." The mission was simple on paper: infiltrate the sprawling nomadic fleet of the HFY, locate their warlord known only as the Void Sovereign, and eliminate the threat. In reality, it was a suicide mission that only the most elite human operatives could hope to survive. As the Shadowblade slipped silently through space, Jones reflected on the path that had led him here. The HFY had appeared seemingly out of nowhere 2 years ago, their massive fleet of cobbled-together ships descending upon human colonies like locusts. They stripped planets bare of resources, leaving only devastation in their wake. Conventional military tactics had proven useless against their hit-and-run strategy. That's where Fireteam Obsidian came in. Jones, along with his 4 hand-picked operatives, represented humanity's last, desperate gamble. "Suit up," Jones ordered, his voice carrying the weight of countless lives. "We drop in 10. The team assembled in the cramped airlock, a collection of the deadliest soldiers humanity had to offer. Sergeant Marcus Duke Wellington, the team's demolitions expert, checked the magnetic seals on his armor for the 3rd time. His massive frame dwarfed the others, a walking tank of genetically enhanced muscle. Corporal Zen Ghost Lee, their infiltration specialist, moved with an eerie silence even in the confines of her advanced stealth suit. Her eyes, augmented with cutting-edge optical implants, scanned constantly for threats. Private First Class Dmitry Bear-Volkov, the team's heavy weapons specialist, lovingly caressed the barrel of his custom-built plasma cannon. The cybernetic enhancements lacing his arms allowed him to wield the massive weapon as easily as a standard rifle. And lastly, there was Specialist Eli Doc Cohen, their field medic and tech expert. His fingers danced across a holographic interface, running last-minute diagnostics on the team's life support systems. Jones looked at each of them in turn, feeling a swell of pride. They were the best of the best, and he'd trust each of them with his life. They'd need that trust in the coming hours. "You all know the mission," Jones began, his voice steady. "We infiltrate the HFY command ship, locate the Void Sovereign, and eliminate the target. Intel suggests their leadership structure will collapse without a figurehead. With any luck, we'll be back home in time for synth beer and vid games." A few grim chuckles echoed through the airlock. "One last thing," Jones added, his expression hardening. "If any of us are captured, you know the protocol. No one gets left behind to be tortured or experimented on. Understood?" A chorus of affirmatives answered him. They all carried neural detonators as a last resort. Death was preferable to what the HFY did to their prisoners. The airlock cycled, and Fireteam Obsidian launched into the void. Their jet-black armor blended seamlessly with the darkness of space as they maneuvered towards the looming hulk of the HFY command ship. As they drew closer, the true scale of the alien vessel became apparent. It was a nightmarish amalgamation of stolen technology and scavenged materials, easily the size of a small moon. Glowing veins of exotic energy pulsed along its surface, powering weapons that could shatter planets. "I've got an entry point," Ghost's whisper crackled through the comm. "Maintenance airlock, minimal security." "Roger that," Jones replied. "Duke, prep a breach charge. Let's introduce ourselves." The team glided silently to the designated airlock. Duke placed a shaped plasma charge on the outer door, the device adhering with a soft hiss. They took up breaching positions, weapons at the ready. "Fire in the hole," Duke growled, triggering the detonator. The airlock door vaporized in a silent flash of superheated plasma. Fireteam Obsidian surged through the opening, entering the bowels of the HFY ship. The interior was as alien and unsettling as they had imagined. Organic-looking corridors pulsed with an unhealthy light, while unfamiliar machinery hummed ominously in the background. The air was thick with an acrid, chemical smell that made their eyes water even through the suit's filtration systems. "Talk about a fixer-upper," Bear muttered, his massive frame barely fitting in the cramped passageway. "Cut the chatter," Jones ordered. Ghost, lead the way. Everyone else, watch our six. They moved swiftly through the labyrinthine corridors, relying on Ghost's advanced sensors to avoid HFY patrols. The aliens they glimpsed were nightmarish creatures vaguely humanoid, but with too many limbs and eyes that glowed with an unnatural intelligence. As they penetrated deeper into the ship, the oppressive atmosphere seemed to intensify. The walls themselves appeared to pulse with a sickly rhythm, as if the entire vessel were a living, breathing entity. "I've got a lock on the command center," Doc reported, his eyes fixed on a holographic display projected from his wrist. 2 levels up, heavily guarded. Jones nodded grimly. "All right, people. This is it. Remember your training, watch each other's backs, and let's go make history." They ascended through a series of twisting passageways, encountering scattered resistance from HFY warriors. The aliens fought with a terrifying ferocity, but Fireteam Obsidian's superior training and technology gave them the edge. As they approached the command center, the resistance intensified. Waves of HFY troops poured from side passages, forcing the team into a desperate firefight. "Bear, clear us a path," Jones shouted over the din of battle. The big Russian grinned savagely, hefting his massive plasma cannon. "With pleasure, Captain." A stream of superheated plasma erupted from the weapon, carving a swath of destruction through the alien horde. The air filled with the acrid smell of burning flesh and the dying screams of HFY warriors. "Move. Move. Move," Jones ordered, and Fireteam Obsidian surged forward through the gap in the enemy lines. They burst into the command center in a hail of gunfire and explosions. The cavernous chamber was a riot of alien technology, with holographic displays showing the positions of thousands of ships in the HFY fleet. And there, at the center of it all, stood the Void Sovereign. The alien warlord was a towering figure, easily 3 meters tall. Its body was a twisted amalgamation of flesh and machine, with pulsing tubes and crackling energy fields intertwined with rippling muscle and chitinous armor. So the Void Sovereign's voice boomed, a grating synthetic approximation of human speech. "The prey comes willingly into the hunter's lair." Jones raised his rifle, aiming squarely at the alien's grotesque head. "It's over. Surrender now, and we'll spare what's left of your fleet." The Void Sovereign's laughter was like the grinding of metal on bone. "Fool! You have no concept of what you face. We are the HFY. We are eternal. We are Legion." With blinding speed, the alien leader lashed out with a whip-like appendage. Jones barely managed to dodge, feeling the wind of its passage against his faceplate. "Engage," he roared, and Fireteam Obsidian sprang into action. The battle that ensued was unlike anything they had trained for. The Void Sovereign moved with impossible speed and strength, shrugging off wounds that would have felled a dozen normal combatants. Its bodyguards swarmed around it, a living shield of twisted flesh and metal. Duke's explosives rocked the command center, shattering alien technology and sending HFY troops flying. Ghost danced through the chaos, her stealth field flickering as she struck with pinpoint precision at vulnerable joints and exposed flesh. Bear's plasma cannon roared continuously, the big Russian laughing maniacally as he unleashed devastation upon the enemy. Doc's drones zipped through the air, providing covering fire and emergency medical support where needed. And through it all, Jones faced off against the Void Sovereign in a deadly duel. His enhanced reflexes were pushed to their limit as he dodged the alien's attacks while searching for an opening. "You fight well, human," the Void Sovereign taunted, its voice dripping with condescension. "But you cannot stop what is to come. We are the future. You are nothing but cattle to be harvested." Jones gritted his teeth, ignoring the alien's words. He had seen too many colonies reduced to ash, too many lives snuffed out by this monster's ambition. Nothing would stop him from completing the mission. In a perfectly coordinated move, Ghost materialized behind the Void Sovereign, plunging a vibroblade deep into a gap in its armor. The alien roared in pain and fury, momentarily distracted. It was all the opening Jones needed. He surged forward, activating the monomolecular blade concealed in his gauntlet. With a single, fluid motion, he drove the impossibly sharp weapon up through the Void Sovereign's throat and into its twisted brain. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. The alien's eyes widened in shock and disbelief. Then, With a final, rattling gasp, the light faded from its gaze. The void sovereign terror of human space collapsed to the deck with an earth-shaking thud. In the sudden silence that followed, Jones turned to his team. They were battered, bloodied, but alive. A fierce pride swelled in his chest. "Fireteam Obsidian," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Mission accomplished." As if on cue, the ship around them began to shudder and groan. Without the Void Sovereign's controlling influence, the patchwork vessel was beginning to tear itself apart. "Time to go," Jones barked. "Doc, plot us an exit route." "Duke, the First want charges on every critical system we pass. Let's make sure this monstrosity never flies again." They fought their way back through the disintegrating ship, HFY forces now in complete disarray without their leader. Emergency klaxons wailed as entire sections of the vessel began to decompress. Finally, they reached the same airlock they had entered through. As Fireteam Obsidian launched themselves back into the void of space, the massive HFY command ship began to break apart behind them. The U.S. Shadowblade decloaked nearby, extending its recovery arms to bring the team aboard. As the airlock cycled, Jones took one last look at the dying alien vessel. Explosions rippled across its surface, and smaller ships fled in all directions like rats abandoning a sinking ship. It was over. The threat of the HFY had been ended with a single, decisive stroke. As Fireteam Obsidian removed their helmets, Jones looked at each of his soldiers in turn. They were exhausted, injured, but their eyes shone with the light of victory. "I don't say this often enough," Jones began, his voice thick with emotion. "But I'm damn proud of each and every one of you. What we did today. We've saved countless lives. Remember this moment." Duke grinned, slapping Jones on the back hard enough to stagger him. "Oh, Cap, you're gonna make me blush." Ghost allowed herself a small smile, while Bear let out a booming laugh. Even Doc's usually serious expression softened. As the Shadowblade accelerated away from the disintegrating HFY fleet, Jones felt a weight lift from his shoulders. There would be more battles to fight, more threats to face, but for now they had won a victory that would echo through history. Humanity would sleep safely tonight, thanks to the courage and sacrifice of Fireteam Obsidian.